Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. It's always one of those things where you speak to your mates and you're like, who's the best sort of guitarist, like modern day guitarist? And I think I've come up with sort of 10 guitarists which are different but also quite similar at the same time, and I think they're really kind of leading the vanguard of what is actually decreed like a really good guitarist at the moment. So without further ado, I will give you my top 10 modern metal guitarists. Is Mr. Tony Sanacandro from Job for a Cowboy. Like, the first thing I remember hearing on Demonocracy was that, you know, like when he whacks the whammy bar, and I just thought it was brilliant. And I think it was exactly what Job for a Cowboy needed, and they like really gave him a kick up the arse technicality wise. His use of, you know, the whammy bar, various different melodies, and also like his licks are really inspired, and that makes him, you know, one of the guitarists top of the game at the moment. Coming in after him is Mr. Ryan Knight of the Black Dahlia Murder, who kind of moves in with Brandon Ellis as well. So Ryan Knight sadly is no longer in the Black Dahlia Murder, but has been replaced by the very capable Brandon Ellis, who, what I loved about Ryan Knight's stuff is it really elevated the Black Dahlia Murder to the next level. You know, it had this sense of melody which I think they were trying to kind of get, you know, with Nocturnal and stuff like that, but he just didn't have the chops. You know, like, whereas Ryan Knight, he's a great solo writer. Genius. Not to mention, you've got his solos on I Will Return, and pretty much all of Deflorate and Ritual, you know, like The Window, that's a fantastic little bit. And I think he's really responsible for kind of pushing the Black Dahlia Murder further on and into more of a melodic kind of category, really, which I think is really important. Who is in Scar Symmetry, who are currently apparently making their follow-up to the Singularity phases. So personally, I loved his solo in Neo-Human, and I think it's characterized by his kind of like sliding style, which I remember trying to learn it and I thought, he's doing loads of bends, but it wasn't. It was just like really quick slides, and I think it gives him a really kind of a really different personality to a lot of guitar artists out there. It's almost like a space age sort of sound, but he uses melody to really great effect, which I think is one of the things that, you know, these guitarists have in common. Up next is Wes Hauch, or Hauch, I'm not sure if I've said that right, but I remember when years and years ago when Otto Theism came out, and that second bit of Otto Theism, when I think it's Emancipate, when it comes in with that, that whole solo for like the next 2 minutes is still one of my favourite solos. You know, you might play something that sounds quite simple and pentatonic, but you know, instead of doing a normal kind of like 1-4, 1-3, 1-3, he'll do like 3-1 and kind of string skip at the same time, which I think is fascinating. Then we've got the UK man himself, Josh Middleton, who is responsible, well, now for Architect, but his work with Sylosis is what I kind of wanted to concentrate on. I know it's kind of one that's probably overlooked a bit, but I really love the instrumental Where the Sky Ends. I just think it's great. Like, it's got this real great songwriting to it, and it kind of like, it progresses, you know, with that dun 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 dun, and especially on their last album, Dormant Heart, I think that the songwriting was really key to Sylosis' kind of success, and I was really interested to see where they were going, especially on the end of Quintessence. He is the guitar maestro behind Between the Buried and Me, and man, like, his solo stuff, I could reel off all sorts of stuff, like Telos is And then you've got the Coma Machine, which has got some fantastic bits in it. What I think people identify him the most with is this idea of kind of a relief. So like in colours, you have Foam-Born A, and then you have different melodies which come back throughout the entire album. And you know, it ends on this final bit of white walls. And I think it's a really interesting use of melody, and he's a real kind of like game changer, really. We've got Benjamin Barret, or Barrett, I'm not sure. He's from Nebulous and responsible for the lead lines in there. And they're just beginning to hit their stride, really. You know, the previous album, Citadel, was absolutely fantastic. They had these really long compositions, which were really, really interesting. And there was some great lead work in there, you know, with various different kind of little licks of melody, and enough to kind of, you know, remind you of what's going on, and not kind of bore you as well, but work okay against the violin, which I think was really, really interesting, especially because that's kind of like their USP. Then we've got Scott Carstairs and Brian James of the dudes Fallujah, who I love. They're such nice guys, and also they've really taken the idea of how you play guitar to a new level. You know, the introduction of the whammy bar and how they kind of use things like that. It's so interesting. And you know, like for example, the opening of Starlit Path, when it goes into that sort of thing. Obviously it's not the same. I'll be really interested to see what they kind of come up with on the next album, because I mean Flesh Prevails and Dreamless were both absolutely fantastic. Josh Elmore, again, he's another fantastic guitarist. I just thought of that from Cal Decapitation, you know, like his inspired kind of like quick fire sort of guitar solos just kind of go, and then that's gone, and then you go back into the kind of groove, which brings me to my final guy, who I honestly think is the best guitarist since like Marty Friedman. In terms of rhythm, he's such a solid player in, you know, the fact that they've got songs that are the likes of Spastic, or they've got songs which are like Deathless or Madness Opus. I think it's a really interesting use of the 7-string that Revocation have got, which is something totally different than anything I've really heard before. And it's not, you know, like chugga chugga chugga. It's using the 7-string when you need to use it. But in terms of leads, man, that solo in Bound by Desire is probably my favourite solo I've ever heard. It's the composition, the way that it's made up, the melody. I mean, there's some kind of like Vi elements, but I think that Davidson has got such a repertoire in what kind of music he listens to and what kind of bands he's influenced by, and also the players, that he's got this amazing, really significant style that no one else can kind of pull off. And I'd be really interested to see what other guitarists you guys think. You know, I'm sure I've missed a hell of a lot out. If you like this video, please give me a like and make sure you subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.